Let me start out with a kind of a broad framing question. The UAE has made progress on AI and advanced technologies more broadly a priority, a major priority. In fact, has framed it as being as central to the country's future as oil and gas were to its development since its beginnings in the 1970s. For listeners who are unfamiliar, can you start by describing the rationale behind this transition and the progress that's been made to date on advancing the priorities?
So UAE's effort when it comes to actually diversifying its economy has started since the first day of the establishment of the nation, more than 50 years ago. And as time passed and the global kind of landscape when it came to economic opportunities, economic incentives, economic drivers has also evolved. And over the past 2 decades, we've noticed the big, or even more, probably 3 decades, the big role that science and technology plays in defining the global economic activities, in defining nations' ability to perform competitively globally from an economic point of view. So the aspect of having a vibrant, creative, and innovative knowledge economy is a critical element in any developed country or any mature economy. To do that, you need to have a very capable science and technology sector. So the UAE looked at these areas that are related to science, technology, and space was one of those areas that was used as an accelerator to develop the skills and the capability. Today, as you noticed, that one of the new emerging tech areas that a lot of countries and a lot of even entities bet on in a way that it's going to shape the future of the economy of the world is AI. So naturally, we actually went into that area knowing that it has a high potential of um, evolving into something that is big. And we did that long time ago. I mean, the UAE's efforts when it comes to AI was since 2017, 2018. And today we've seen how AI has reached a point in which it's actually being deployed and used in our daily routines and in daily work. Something as simple as Chat GPT and the way people are actually using it. That's just one example. So the UAE's approach to AI was based on its national interests, based on assessment that it did in the sense that it identifies the areas that it needs to focus on for the future. So it's about the future of our economy. It's about the quality of life that the UAE wants to provide to its population and its citizens. So it's about the national needs of the UAE.
So, what are the milestones that you look at and say, well, these are the KPIs. These are the metrics that say we are advancing here. I would imagine that they range from technology investment at home and abroad, training, developing of the human resources behind it, developing partnerships worldwide. What are you looking at to say yes, we're hitting our goals?
So as you mentioned, I mean, if we can simplify it into KPIs, and it should be always more at this point qualitative than quantitative because it's still a new area and a new emerging area. So it's very difficult to quantify it at this point. So you always have to look at it from a quality point of view. But yes, exactly as you mentioned, it should be kind of the full ecosystem or the verticals or the pillars of the ecosystem. It's about the talent that you need to prepare. It's about the infrastructure that you need to have. It's about the deployment strategies that you need to do, and it's about the ability to prepare the society to use it and understand kind of the ethical boundaries when it comes to the deployment of these technologies. And again, going to the point again of the ethical guidelines, standards that needs to be developed and needs to be internationally aligned between all nations also, and having a system of governance that governs the deployment, the adaptation, and the infrastructure development of this technology. So if you look at what the UAE has been doing, it's been looking at every single element of these. Some require like pure investments from a financial point of view. Others require more like a talent and resources, human resources development, and the other is more kind of a philosophical one that you want to develop a system that governs it. That it's not just for the UAE, but it's based on a global, agreed upon set of standards and ethics that you want everyone to be able to follow. Also, you cannot work on this technology on your own. You cannot deploy it based on your own standard. It needs to be something that is global.
Well, that gets me to kind of my next question, because you, coming from where you did in the space program, working on the Mars mission, I think you spent a chunk of time actually living overseas, not just studying in the U.S., but I think in living in the Republic of Korea. You've worked on these things around the as a technological practitioner, and it's really clear that advancing this requires international cooperation at a high and ongoing level, both to find partners, to create the governance and regulatory environment that's involved, and so forth. And so I think it's kind of interesting, because one of the areas the UAE has led the way is how AI is sort of figured and fit into the government, that here you are now in the foreign ministry. And so the question becomes, how does AI fit into the mission of a foreign ministry?
So, in the past, when you looked at foreign affairs, it was very simple. You just looked at it from a political angle, defense and security angle, and that defined your foreign policy. With the end of the Cold War, a new element came in that is also defined nations' foreign policy, and that was economics. Today, a fourth pillar came in, and that is technology. So countries that realize the importance that technology will play in reshaping geopolitics are the ones who will be able to get the most out of it from an opportunity point of view, and the ones who will be able to manage the risks associated with it in the most effective way also. So technology will not only change the quality of life, it is actually redefining geopolitics. What you're unable to do in the past, you're able to do it today. The accessibility to the technology is another challenge. Technology such as AI is more accessible in the sense that the deployment of software tools that you're using to get the most out of this technology is something that is very volatile and not hard in the sense that you're able to just control it. So how do you make sure that people and nations, state actors and non-state actors are actually deploying it and using it in a responsible way? So that conversation cannot happen without having the foreign policy angle to it. That conversation has, the economic element to it, it has the social element to it, it has the political element to it, and has the national security element to it. So usually the foreign policy plays a role in trying to have these discussions in international platforms. And it's similar to what you look at, like if you look at space, for example, or if you look at nuclear programs or topics. Foreign policy is an important tool and element of these discussions in the multilateral and even bilateral setups. Whether it's happening between nations or it's happening at the United Nations, it does define countries' foreign policies. And I think the new critical and emerging technologies that are coming up, such as AI, and in the future probably quantum, genomes, and others, will require that foreign policy becomes an element in defining the strategies, or more of, actually no, it will be more of they will actually contribute to defining the foreign policy strategies and positions of nations.